Your rent went up again, your car insurance found another reason, and the pharmacy takes a bigger bite every quarter. So a lot of black retirees quietly changed the plan to leaving. Here's the part the brochure never prints. Before any country charges you rent, it charges you a number just to walk in the door. Retirement visa income requirements. A minimum you prove on paper before anybody hands you a residence card. And on 10 of the countries sold hardest to black Americans right now, that number sits higher than what a black retiree collects. So that's the ranking, up front. Not rent, not weather, not how they treat you once you land. 10 countries, counted down by how far above your real monthly check their door sits. 9 want it monthly. Number 1 wants years of your check in one lump, which is exactly why it's number 1. The average retired worker in America pulls about $2,083 a month in 2026. But the last time anybody split Social Security out by race, back in 2019, the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare put black men over 65 at $14,409 a year. Black women, $12,806. Call it $1,200 a month. That's the yardstick for all 10. Hit subscribe, and let's start at number 10. Number 10, Thailand. Ask around Niman Hayman, up in Chiang Mai, and black expats will tell you the same thing. It's the softest landing in Asia. Rent that leaves you something at the end of the month, hospitals that actually work, and nobody studying you in the grocery store. That part's real, and it's why Thailand's on every list anybody's written about black Americans leaving. Then you open the form. The non-immigrant OA retirement visa wants 65,000 baht a month. Call it $1,930. Or you skip the income route and park 800,000 baht in a Thai bank instead, about 24 grand sitting still, doing nothing, proving a point. Thailand isn't asking you to be rich. Thailand's asking you to prove it up front, and then leave the proof somewhere it can keep an eye on it. You've also got to be 50 or older, which most of you are. Now, let's talk about the part that got added quietly. Thailand wants health insurance with a minimum sum insured of $100,000, or 3 million baht, every policy year. Travel insurance doesn't count, and neither does the card you're still carrying from back home. It has to be a policy Thailand recognizes, renewed every year, priced the way anything gets priced once the seller knows your age. And the requirements shift from one Royal Thai consulate to the next, so the number your cousin cleared in Los Angeles isn't the number they'll quote you in Chicago. The OA buys 1 year at a time. Now put a black retiree in front of that form. At $1,200 a month, you're not short by a little. You're short by more than $700 every single month. And the fix isn't budgeting. There's no version of Careful that turns $1,200 into $1,930. Thailand opens this list at number 10 because 1.6 times your check is the smallest gap on it. The friendliest door in this whole video. And still locked. Number 9, Brazil. Brazil doesn't have to sell itself to us. Rio Vermelho in Salvador is a place where a black American can go a full week without being the story in the room. And every black American who's spent 2 weeks there comes home talking different. That isn't marketing. That's just what it's like. The retirement visa is called the Vitam Shiv, and it's where the 2-week version and the permanent version stop matching. Brazil wants $2,000 a month in pension income, plus $400 a month for every dependent you bring. And here's the clause that does the real damage. It has to be pension money. Investment income doesn't qualify on its own. So if you spent 30 years building a small portfolio instead of sitting on a pension, that portfolio is invisible. The size of the pile isn't the test. The source of it is, it's less a visa than a standing order. Then there's the wire. Brazil doesn't just want to see the money once. The Vitam Shiv rule says the pension has to land in a Brazilian bank account every single month you hold the visa. Miss the rhythm, and you're not a resident anymore. The $400 per dependent isn't a footnote either. Bring a spouse who never worked a covered job, and the door goes to $2,400. So think about what that asks of a black retiree on $1,200. It isn't only that the number's too small. It's that it has to be pension money, it has to land in a Brazilian account, and it has to keep landing there. Brazil lands at number 9 because $2,000 is 1.7 times the check a black man over 65 is actually collecting, and because the country that most looks like us asks the most specific question about how our money got built. Most black retirees in America never had a pension job in the first place, so that question rules people out before the number ever gets its turn. Number 8. South Africa. South Africa should be the easiest door on this list. So why is it one of the tightest? This is a black majority country with a black government and cities that were built to keep us out and belong to us anyway. Sea Point in Cape Town, Melville in Johannesburg, whole neighborhoods where a black American retiree isn't a curiosity, just a neighbor with an accent. Capital B counts South Africa among the places this whole wave is landing. The retired person's visa asks for 37,000 Rand a month. That's about $2,250. But read the next line on the form. It's got to be passive income. Pensions, retirement annuities, trusts, investment returns. Money you earn by working doesn't count at all. So if you're 63 and still driving nights to make the number, the driving is invisible to the Department of Home Affairs. A lot of black Americans already out there will tell you that's the line that got them, not the amount. A lump sum won't save you either. Home Affairs wants to watch the money land, month after month, and then watch the whole thing again in 4 years at renewal. There's one other way in. Qualify on net worth if you hold assets throwing off 37,000 Rand a month. Run that backwards, and it's a portfolio most black families in America have never been near. The continent a whole generation grew up calling home has a version of home that costs $2,250 a month. The check most of us are working with is $1,200. You can love a place your whole life. The form doesn't know that and doesn't care. Nobody sat down to keep us out. They wrote a number, and the number does it for them. South Africa lands 8th, 1.9 times the check, because it's the first country here where the gap isn't about distance or language. It's about the specific way our money was allowed to accumulate. Number 7. Spain. Spain's the one that looks like it should work. The Costa del Sol has been absorbing American retirees for 40 years. Seville's Triana rents for less than most of Atlanta, and there's a real black community in Malaga that'll tell you they're not coming back. Imagine one of the ordinary weekday mornings you've been picturing for years, except the pharmacy line is 11 minutes long and costs you nothing. That's the pitch, and it isn't a lie. The visa is called the non-lucrative visa, and that name is doing a lot of work. Spain wants 2,400 euros a month, about $2,740. It's not an arbitrary figure either. It's pinned at 400% of something called IPREM, Spain's official income index, sitting at 600 euros a month in 2026, so the requirement moves whenever Madrid decides IPREM moves. Now here's where non-lucrative earns its name. You can't work, not in Spain, not for a Spanish company, and not remotely for an American one. That last part catches people. The consulting gig you were going to keep running from the balcony to close the gap? That gig is the reason they'd deny you. Plenty of black expats in Malaga will tell you they found that out at the renewal, not the application. Spain would rather you show up broke on paper than busy. On top of it, you need private health insurance with no copayment, matching the Spanish public system, from an insurer licensed in Spain. Then you do it again next year, and the year after, up to 5. And every person you bring adds 600 euros a month, so a couple is looking at 3,000 euros, about $3,420. So what does Spain actually want from a black retiree? It wants you already finished, not still working, not still hustling, finished, at $2,740 a month, with the receipts. Spain comes in at number 7, 2.3 times the check, because it's the first door here that doesn't just measure your income, it bans the thing you'd do to raise it. Number 6, Italy. You're standing in a hill town with a stone house in front of you and a price on it that reads like a typo. €1, maybe 2,000. The roof needs work, the view is free, and somewhere in America, a black retiree is doing the math and thinking this is finally it. Musamelli, Sicily. And the house really is that cheap. The visa is not. The mayor is on video waving you in. The consulate sits in a different building and has never seen the video. Italy's elective residence visa asks for €31,000 a year in passive income. That's about €2,583 a month, roughly $2,950. And the people who file these for a living will tell you the consulates read it higher, closer to €32,000. Now let's be clear about what elective residence means. You may not work at all, not in Italy, and not back home either. The income has to be earned abroad and already flowing, from a pension or an annuity or rent on property you already own. Affording the house isn't the question on that form. The question is whether you'll ever need work again, and each dependent adds about €20,900 a year on top, so bringing your wife means clearing better than €50,000 before Sicily says yes. So the €1 house is real, and the €31,000 is real, and they get sold to black Americans in the same paragraph. The house price is the part that gets filmed. The €31,000 is on page 2 of a consulate PDF, and nobody's making a reel out of page 2. For a retiree on $1,200 a month, the cheap house is the cruelest part of the entire pitch. You can buy the building. You just can't be legally allowed to stand in it. Italy takes number 6, 2.5 times the check, because it's the widest gap yet between what a place advertises and what its form requires. That's 5 down, and we're at the turn. If these door numbers are landing, tap like, subscribe, and switch the bell on so the next breakdown finds you. The top 5 is where the numbers stop being close. Back to the count. Number 5, Greece. Greece spent a decade telling Americans to come. Cheap islands, a coastline that doesn't quit, and Athens neighborhoods like Koukaki, where a one-bedroom still costs less than a parking space in Manhattan. Black retirees have been on that guest list, and Greek tourism has been very happy to put us in the brochure. Then, in the middle of all that welcoming, Greece changed the number. The tourism board still says come as you are. The consulate says come as you were in 2019, plus 75%. The financially independent person visa used to ask €2,000 a month. It now asks €3,500. That's about $4,000, a 75% jump, and it landed on people who were already saving toward the old figure. If you'd rather not prove monthly income, the alternative is showing €126,000 parked in an account to cover 3 years. Bring a spouse, and the requirement climbs another 20%. Bring a child, another 15%. Greece prices a family the way a phone company prices a family. And you've got to actually live there, 183 days a year minimum, or the permit lapses. So the snowbird plan, 6 months in Athens and 6 months near the grandkids, is the exact plan Greece has ruled out. So Greece is asking a black couple on 2 Social Security checks to produce $4,800 a month between them and live there more than half the year. The average check for a black woman over 65 came to $12,806 a year. That's $1,067 a month. 2 of those don't reach it. Neither do 4. Greece isn't hostile. Greece raised the rope on purpose, in writing, and dated the memo. What wasn't on purpose is who that lands on, and Greece hasn't pulled a single ad since. Greece is 5th at 3.3 times the check, because it's the only country here that moved the number while we were still walking toward it. People who spent years saving toward 2,000 euros woke up needing 3,500 euros, and nothing about their savings had changed. Number 4. Barbados. Everything Greece asks for, Barbados asks too. Except Barbados asks in English, 3 hours from Miami, on an island that spent 5 years openly courting the diaspora. That's the trap. It feels closer, so it feels cheaper. The welcome stamp launched in 2020, and it's the door most Black Americans get pointed at. 12 months of legal residence, no Barbadian tax on foreign income, and a threshold of $50,000. Run that division, and it's $4,167 a month. The application itself costs $2,000 a year, paid before you find out whether you're approved. $2,000 to be told no is a whole business model, and you need valid health insurance covering the whole stay. 12 months, and then you're back at that counter doing it again. Now, let's be fair. The welcome stamp was never designed for retirees. It's a remote work permit, so a retiree with no job is applying to a category built for somebody who has one. Barbados does run a traditional immigration permit route, where the immigration department will look at a pension instead. So the door isn't sealed. It's just not the door in the ads, the reels, or the diaspora conference panel. And that's where it stings. Hastings, in Christchurch, that whole strip on the south coast, is full of people who look like you and are glad you came. Ask anybody who's spent a winter down there, fish cakes on a Friday, and not one person asking where you're really from. The welcome is genuine. The stamp is $50,000. Barbados runs 2 doors and only advertises one of them, and it isn't the one with a pension line on the form. You can be wanted and still not be admitted. Barbados holds number 4, 3.5 times the check, because this list ranks the door a country actually points you at, and the door in every reel about this island opens at $50,000 a year. The quieter one exists. Nobody's filming it. Number 3. Mexico. Picture the plan you've probably already made. Mérida, or somewhere near it. A house in Centro, with a courtyard, a market 4 blocks away, a flight home that costs less than one bad night in an emergency room. Mexico's been the default answer to American retirement for 2 generations, and for Black retirees it's the practical one, because it's close enough that you still get to be a grandparent. Mexico changed the number, and almost nobody told us. In 2022, temporary residency wanted about $2,000 a month. As of 2026, it wants roughly $4,400, or about $74,000 in savings. That's not an adjustment, that's more than double in 4 years. On January 1st of 2026, the processing fees doubled too. Mexico raised the cover charge and the drink prices on the same night, and you still have to convert the stamp into a resident card at an INM office within 30 days of landing. Mexico moved the whole calculation onto an index called the UMA, and the switch was the merciful option. Without it, the bar would have landed near $5,100. That's what mercy costs in Mexico now. A lot of Black retirees who moved down there in the last decade cleared the old number without breaking a sweat. Same people, same pension, and today, they wouldn't get in. For a Black retiree, at $1,200 a month, the door number in Mexico is 3.7 times the check. Rent in Mérida barely moved. Rent was never the problem. Mexico didn't stop wanting Americans. Mexico started checking which ones. Mexico stands at number 3 because it's the plan most of us actually had, and it's the one that quietly stopped being available while we were still saving for it. Same plan. New price. Number 2. United Arab Emirates. Dubai sells a very specific fantasy to Black Americans, and it sells it well. Tax-free income, a skyline that looks like a screensaver, and a version of yourself in the rooftop brunch photo. There's a real Black American community there now, out in Jumeirah Village Circle, and over in Older Dira. When Capital B mapped where this wave is going, the Emirates made the list alongside Ghana and Portugal. The retirement visa is where the screensaver stops. The retiree residence permit gives you 3 ways in and doesn't care which one you use. Property worth 1 million dirhams, about $272,000. Savings of 1 million dirhams, or verified monthly income of 20,000 dirhams, roughly $5,450. Pick whichever one you've got. The Emirates has a number for everything and a discount for nothing. Dubai runs its own slightly lower threshold at 15,000 dirhams, about $4,085. That's the number the influencers quote. The federal one is the number the GRAFA puts on your file. You also have to be 55 or older with at least 15 years of service behind you, and the insurer has to be licensed in the Emirates, so whatever plan you kept from your last employer gets replaced before you land. The permit runs 5 years, and it's self-sponsored, which sounds like freedom until you read the renewal clause. You keep it only while you keep meeting the criteria, so the year your portfolio dips, the residency you organized your whole life around goes back on the table. So here's what the Emirates is really telling a black retiree. Come spend, absolutely. Come stay is a different conversation, and it opens at 4.5 times your check. Dubai takes number 2, 4.5 times the check, because it's the only place here that'll happily take your tourist money every winter and still not let you unpack. The tourist visa costs you almost nothing. The residence permit starts at $5,450 a month and never stops asking. Number 1. Malaysia. For 20 years, there was one right answer for anybody who wanted a soft, cheap, English-speaking retirement in Asia. Malaysia. So how did the easiest country on the continent end up as the hardest door in this video? Georgetown, Penang, colonial shophouses, hawker food for a couple of dollars, private hospitals Americans fly in for, and everybody speaks English. The cost of living there hasn't gotten worse. It's still the best value on this whole list. The program's called Malaysia, My Second Home. It relaunched in July of 2024 under the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture. Here's the kicker. There's no monthly income route anymore. None. You don't qualify by what arrives. You qualify by what you've already got. The entry tier asks for a fixed deposit of $150,000 parked in a Malaysian bank, then a compulsory property purchase, minimum 600,000 ringgit, about $147,000. Together, that's roughly $297,000 before a single bag of groceries. Gold tier wants $500,000 on deposit. Platinum wants $1 million. At that point, you're not retiring to Malaysia, you're investing in Malaysia and getting a room out of it. Malaysia used to ask what you earn. Now Malaysia asks what you have, and then asks to hold it. Now, there's a side door, and I won't pretend there isn't. Sarawak runs a separate program, not MM2H, and a single applicant can get in on RM 10,000 a month, about $2,450. That's real, and it's worth knowing. It's also one state, over on Borneo, a flight from the Penang everybody's picturing. It doesn't move MM2H, because MM2H is the one with the ads. So run the arithmetic. For a black retiree collecting $1,200 a month, the entry tier is roughly 20 years of Social Security handed over up front. In a country where 62% of black working-age households have no retirement account at all, to build that pile in, that's the National Institute on Retirement Security. Malaysia didn't get more expensive to live in. It got more expensive to be allowed to. Malaysia closes this list at number 1 because it stopped measuring income altogether and started measuring inheritance. So 10 countries that put us in the brochure and out of the arithmetic. Nobody wrote these rules to keep us out. That isn't the same as saying they don't. The forms are neutral. The checks aren't. There are doors that still open at $1,000 a month, Panama and Costa Rica among them, and nobody's making reels about those. And to everybody about to say stay and build, you're not wrong. You're answering a different question than the one printed on the form. Now argue with me. Which country here would you still try for? And which one did you cross off tonight? Drop your ranking below. And if you've already cleared one of these doors, tell everybody which one and what they actually asked you for. That comment is worth more than this whole video. If the numbers were useful, hit like and subscribe. We do the homework here every week. Check the form, count the door, and never let a brochure tell you where you're welcome.